Bay leaf, 1,000x stronger than Botox, erases all wrinkles even at the age of 70 senior health. The sun isn't even fully up yet, and already your morning begins with that same familiar struggle. You take your first breath of the day, and before you can even sit up, there it is, the coughing, the thick mucus, that uncomfortable urge to clear your throat again and again. Maybe you keep a tissue on your nightstand because you know it's coming. Maybe you wait a moment before greeting your spouse or calling your grandkids, because the sound of that morning cough feels embarrassing. And maybe, deep down, you've wondered if this is just what getting older looks like. But you're not imagining it, and you're certainly not the only one living with it. What so many women over 60 experience every morning isn't simply age. It's a signal, a message your body keeps sending because something underneath the surface needs attention. When mucus becomes a daily companion, it's almost always a sign that something more is going on, something that deserves to be understood instead of ignored. Your body is trying to tell you something important, and today we're going to listen to it together. Every time you like or comment, it helps this message reach another senior who might need it. Thank you for being part of this caring space. Let's move into the next part, something many people overlook but really matters. That morning mucus doesn't just stay in the morning. It affects how comfortably you breathe during the day, how well you sleep at night, and even how confident you feel sharing a meal or a conversation. Many women over 60 tell me they avoid restaurants because they're afraid they'll start coughing halfway through dinner. Others say the throat clearing keeps them awake, or that it makes their chest feel heavy before they've even stepped outside. And what's even more frustrating is that seniors often experience mucus differently from younger adults. What looks like simple irritation in a 30-year-old can linger for days or even weeks in someone older. Yet much of the health industry still focuses on quick fixes, syrups, sprays, lozenges instead of the true causes. This video isn't about temporary relief. It's about helping you understand the 8 real research-backed reasons this keeps happening, and the simple, natural steps that can start bringing you relief. Before we go any further, I want to build something very important with you, trust. What you're hearing today is meant for education and clarity, not diagnosis. Large clinical studies show patterns in how women over 60 respond to allergies, reflux, medications, airway changes, and sleep issues, and we're going to walk through these in a way that actually makes sense. Everything we'll cover is grounded in how the body works as it ages, and in what doctors see every day in real patients. And the best part is this: once women understand what's really behind their mucus, many of them see improvements far faster than they expected. Knowledge truly is power, especially when it comes to breathing easier. Before we dive into the first reason, I'd love to hear a little about you. How old are you? And where are you watching from? Are your mornings filled with coughing, throat clearing, or that heavy feeling when you first try to speak? Your stories help shape every video I make, because no two seniors experience these symptoms the same way. I read every comment truly, and I learn from you just as much as you learn from me. Now, let's take a gentle step forward and start exploring the real reasons behind this daily struggle. Postnasal drip from allergies. One of the most overlooked reasons women over 60 wake up coughing and clearing their throats is something surprisingly simple: mucus sliding down the back of the throat instead of coming out the front of the nose. This is called postnasal drip, and it creates that constant tickle, that urge to swallow, and that thick morning phlegm that seems to appear out of nowhere. Many seniors assume it's from dry air or just an aging throat. But the truth is that the nose and sinus tissues naturally thin with age. The tiny structures that once swept mucus forward lose some of their power. And instead of draining properly, the mucus takes the easiest path straight down the throat, especially while you sleep. It can feel as if it's all happening silently overnight, and by the time you sit up in bed with your first cup of coffee, the irritation is already there. What makes this even more surprising is that allergies can show up later in life, even if you never had them before. Many older adults suddenly react to dust mites in the bedroom, dander from a pet they've loved for years, or springtime pollen that never bothered them in their 20s or 40s. I once spoke with a woman in her early 70s who swore her morning cough was just old age catching up. She pushed through it for months, but after mentioning her symptoms during a routine appointment, she learned she had developed a plain old dust allergy. Once she added a small air purifier to her bedroom and used a gentle saline rinse at night, her mornings changed dramatically. The cough she thought she'd have forever almost disappeared. The good news is that this cause is one of the most fixable, simple steps, like rinsing the sinuses before bed, keeping the sleeping area clean and filtered, and drinking enough water through the day can make a major difference. Even small habits, like washing bedding more often or reducing bedroom clutter, help keep allergens under control. And when post-nasal drip is addressed at its source, many women feel relief faster than they expect. Now, let's take a closer look at another hidden trigger that works from deeper inside the body and often goes unnoticed. Silent acid reflux irritating the throat. Another reason many women over 60 wake up with thick mucus has nothing to do with the nose at all. It starts much lower, in the stomach, and most people never feel the classic warning sign. This is something called silent reflux. Unlike traditional heartburn, it doesn't burn. There's no chest pain, no sour taste, nothing dramatic. Instead, a small amount of stomach acid slowly creeps upward during the night. It travels far enough to irritate the throat and voice box, but not far enough for you to notice it happening. And because the body wants to protect these delicate tissues, it builds a shield thick, sticky mucus. By the time morning arrives and you're reaching for your glasses or pouring your first cup of coffee, the damage has already been done. Nighttime habits can make this much worse without you realizing it. Eating a late dinner, snacking before bed, enjoying chocolate or tomatoes, or sipping coffee in the evening all increase the chance of silent reflux. Even lying flat too soon after eating gives acid the perfect pathway upward. The result is a morning full of coughing, throat clearing, and that heavy feeling deep behind the sternum. One woman I spoke with, Judith, in her early 70s, stopped going out to restaurants because she felt embarrassed by how often she needed to clear her throat after meals. She thought it was just part of getting older, but her doctor later explained that nighttime reflux had been irritating her airway for years. With a few small changes, her symptoms faded faster than she ever imagined. The encouraging news is that silent reflux often responds beautifully to gentle lifestyle adjustments. Smaller dinners give the stomach less to push upward. Skipping coffee or acidic foods late in the evening prevents irritation from building overnight. Raising the head of the bed just a few inches helps gravity work in your favor. And calming teas like chamomile can soothe the digestive system before sleep. These shifts might seem small, but for many seniors, they make all the difference. And the next reason we'll look at is just as surprising, because it starts not in the throat or stomach, but in the medicine cabinet. Side effects of common medications. For many women over 60, the source of their daily cough or thick morning mucus isn't coming from allergies or the lungs at all. It's coming from the medicine bottle on the kitchen counter. Certain blood pressure medications and other common prescriptions can irritate the airways in a way that leads to a persistent cough. The chemistry behind it is actually pretty simple. Some of these medications cause the body to hold on to natural compounds that make the throat more sensitive. When those compounds build up, even a small trigger can set off a chain reaction of coughing, throat clearing, and extra mucus. You may not feel anything unusual during the day, but as the levels rise over time, the throat becomes more reactive, especially in the quiet hours of the morning. Women over 60 tend to be more sensitive to these effects for several reasons. The body processes medications more slowly with age, and many seniors take more than one prescription, which can amplify minor side effects. Even a gentle walk around the block or a warm cup of coffee in the morning can be enough to bring on that familiar tickle. One woman I spoke with, Linda, began clearing her throat constantly just a week after her doctor adjusted her blood pressure medicine. She didn't think the two were related. She thought it must be the weather changing or something she ate. But when she mentioned it at her next appointment, her doctor recognized the pattern immediately. A small switch to a different medication made the cough disappear within days. If any of this feels familiar, the most important thing to remember is that you're not imagining it. Medication side effects are very real, and they affect seniors more strongly than most people realize. The good news is that there are often several alternatives your doctor can choose from. A simple adjustment in dosage or switching to a different category of medication can make a world of difference. Never stop a prescription on your own, but do bring up any new cough or mucus you notice after a change in your medicine. Your comfort matters, and most doctors are more than willing to help you find a better fit. Now, let's take a closer look at another hidden cause, one that stems from changes deep within the lungs themselves. Old lung damage or past smoking. Another reason many women over 60 wake up coughing or bringing up mucus has to do with something from the past rather than the present. Even if you quit smoking 20 or 30 years ago, the lungs often remember. The airways become a little less efficient, and the tissues that once bounced back quickly don't clear irritants the way they used to. Deep inside the lungs are tiny hair-like sweepers called cilia. Their job is to move mucus and trapped particles upward so you can clear them easily. But smoking even years ago can wear them down. When those little sweepers lose strength, mucus begins to settle instead of moving, and the body tries to push it out through morning coughing fits. And it isn't only cigarettes that cause this kind of long-term change. Many seniors grew up in cities with heavy smog, worked in factories, cleaned with strong chemicals, or spent years around second-hand smoke in the home. Those exposures can leave behind small scars in the airways that show up later in life as that old familiar cough. I remember speaking with a woman named Carol who quit smoking 2 full decades ago. Her energy improved, her breathing got easier, and she was proud of her progress. But every morning, without fail, she still woke up coughing thick mucus. She thought she had done something wrong or that her lungs hadn't healed. Her doctor later explained that while quitting had absolutely strengthened her health, her cilia had been damaged long before. The lungs were still healthy enough to work well, but slower mucus clearance meant mornings would always require a little extra patience. The uplifting part is that healing continues at every age. The lungs respond beautifully to small, consistent habits. Drinking water throughout the day keeps mucus thinner. Gentle breathing exercises, even while sitting on the porch or resting after a walk, help strengthen airflow. Foods rich in antioxidants like berries, green tea, or a handful of leafy greens can help calm inflammation inside the airways. These changes aren't dramatic, but over time they support the lungs in the most important ways. And as we move into the next reason, we'll look at something that creates similar mucus problems, but for a very different reason: ongoing inflammation deep in the airways. Chronic bronchitis, or COPD. When mucus stops coming and going, and instead becomes a constant part of your life, something deeper may be happening inside the lungs. Chronic bronchitis and COPD develop slowly, often over many years, and one of the first signs is mucus that simply never lets up. The airways become irritated over and over again, and that irritation leads to swelling and thicker mucus that's harder to clear. As the inflammation builds, the passages that carry air in and out of your lungs begin to narrow, almost like a hallway getting smaller each season. With less space for air to move, the body produces even more mucus in an effort to protect and soothe. Morning becomes the hardest time of day, but for many women, the coughing continues long after breakfast. I remember speaking with a woman named Helen who thought her morning cough was just tied to winter air or the dry heat in her home. But the seasons changed, and her symptoms didn't. Spring came, then summer, and still she woke up every day clearing thick mucus. She tried humidifiers, cough drops, herbal teas, anything she could think of. But the cough always returned. When she finally mentioned it during a routine appointment, her doctor explained that the pattern of her symptoms lasting months at a time pointed to chronic bronchitis. Understanding what was happening inside her lungs changed everything for her. It helped her realize she hadn't done anything wrong, and her body wasn't giving up. It simply needed the right kind of support. The encouraging part is that even with chronic bronchitis or COPD, symptoms can be managed and quality of life can improve. Gentle movement, like a slow walk in the neighborhood or basic stretching, helps keep the airways open. Pulmonary rehab programs teach breathing techniques that make it easier to clear mucus without straining. Keeping the home environment clean and free of irritants reduces flare-ups. And foods rich in natural anti-inflammatory compounds such as leafy greens or a warm cup of green tea help soothe the lungs from the inside out. Early recognition is truly the key. When you understand the cause, you can support your lungs with confidence. And as we move forward, another common reason for daily mucus may surprise you, because it has more to do with water intake than with the lungs themselves. Chronic dehydration making mucus thick. Another surprisingly common reason for morning mucus is something simple, but almost always overlooked: chronic dehydration. As we age, the body becomes less skilled at holding on to water, and the natural thirst signals grow weaker. Many seniors tell me they go hours without drinking anything because they simply don't feel thirsty the way they used to. But the body still needs that fluid, and when it doesn't get enough, mucus becomes thicker, stickier, and harder to move. Instead of the light, slippery coating your airways are meant to have, the mucus turns into something more like glue. That sticky feeling in the throat, the long coughing fits, the heavy gunk in the morning dehydration is often the quiet culprit behind all of it. I once spoke with a woman who kept a busy routine between caring for her grandkids, grocery shopping, and tending to her small backyard garden. She told me she barely drank water during the day, maybe a small glass at lunch and another with dinner. She didn't think it mattered, because she'd never been a big water drinker. But when she started waking up with thick phlegm every morning, she assumed it was allergies or maybe the weather. At her doctor's suggestion, she began sipping water steadily throughout the day instead of waiting until she felt thirsty. Within a week, the morning mucus that had bothered her for months had almost completely disappeared. The encouraging part is that this is one of the easiest causes to improve. Drinking small amounts of water regularly, even just a few sips every hour, helps keep mucus thin and easier to clear. Foods naturally high in water, like cucumbers, oranges, berries, or a warm bowl of broth, support hydration without feeling overwhelming. Avoiding dehydrating drinks late in the day, like alcohol or strong coffee, can also make a noticeable difference by morning. The best news of all is that when dehydration is the cause, relief often comes quickly. Many seniors feel better within days. And now that we've explored something simple and fixable, let's move into a reason that's tied to deeper changes in the immune system as we age. A weaker immune system after 60. Another reason many women over 60 deal with daily mucus is the natural slowdown of the immune system. As we age, the body doesn't clear germs and irritants as quickly as it once did. Instead of fighting something off in a day or two, the immune response can drag on quietly in the background. When bacteria, dust, or even mild viruses linger longer than they should, the airways respond by producing more mucus to protect themselves. What used to be a simple temporary irritation can turn into a constant cycle of throat clearing, coughing, and that heavy feeling deep in the chest. On top of that, age-related inflammation makes the tissues inside the airway more reactive, almost like a fire alarm that's too sensitive. Even small triggers can set it off. I once heard from a woman in her mid-60s who described herself as almost sick all the time, but never fully sick. She didn't run fevers or feel truly ill, but she constantly dealt with a runny nose, a mild scratchy throat, and morning mucus. For months, she brushed it off as seasonal allergies or stress. But when she learned that the immune system naturally loses some of its quickness after 60, everything clicked. Her body wasn't failing her. It was doing the best it could with fewer resources, and the mucus was its way of trying to stay ahead of germs that hung around just a little too long. The encouraging news is that a slower immune system isn't a helpless one. Small, steady habits can make a powerful difference. Eating nutrient-rich foods, especially colourful fruits and vegetables, gives the body the raw materials it needs to defend itself. Light exercise, such as a peaceful walk around the neighbourhood or gentle stretching in the living room, helps immune cells move more efficiently. Quality sleep supports the body's nightly repair work, and probiotics from yogurt or fermented foods help balance the gut, a major player in immune health. These simple practices support the immune system at any age. And now that we've explored how internal defenses affect mucus, let's look at one more reason that often hides in plain sight and can be more serious than it first appears. Undiagnosed sleep apnea or hidden lung infection. For many women over 60, the biggest and most overlooked reason for thick morning mucus begins during sleep. When the airway collapses or becomes too narrow at night, even for a few seconds at a time, the body reacts as though it's in danger. This is what happens in sleep apnea, but in many older women. It doesn't look like the loud snoring people usually imagine. Instead, the breathing pauses are quiet, subtle, and easy to miss. Each time the airway closes, the throat and upper airways become irritated. That irritation sparks inflammation, and by the time morning arrives, the body has produced a layer of thick mucus to protect the tissues from further stress. The mucus you wake up with is often the result of hours of nighttime strain you never even realized was happening. Another hidden contributor is low-level lung or airway infections that can linger for weeks or months. These aren't the kind that knock you into bed with a fever. They're mild, slow-burning infections that leave you feeling off but not truly sick, because they don't cause dramatic symptoms. Many seniors mistake them for allergies or age-related changes, but even a small lingering infection keeps the immune system on high alert, and mucus becomes the body's way of trapping and clearing out irritants that refuse to leave on their own. I once heard from a woman named Margaret, whose daughter noticed she paused slightly during sleep. Even though she didn't snore, Margaret brushed it off as normal aging, but her daughter insisted she get tested. The results showed moderate sleep apnea, and a follow-up scan revealed a mild infection deep in one lung. Once she began treatment, everything changed. Her morning cough faded, she slept more peacefully, and she told me she felt 10 years lighter when she woke up. The reassuring news is that while this cause is serious, it's also very treatable once it's identified. Sleeping with the head slightly elevated can reduce nighttime airway collapse. Staying hydrated keeps mucus from getting thick and sticky. Supporting the immune system with nutrient-rich foods, gentle daily movement, and consistent sleep helps the body fight off lingering infections. But more than anything, early testing for apnea or persistent lung symptoms can truly protect long-term health. And now that we've explored all 8 reasons behind morning mucus, we can bring everything together with a gentle, encouraging reminder of what your body is truly trying to tell you. As we wrap everything together, I want to leave you with one simple truth. Mucus is not aging, it's communication. Every one of the 8 causes we explored today sends a different message from your body, whether it's irritation from allergies, silent reflux whispering through the night, or your immune system asking for a little more support. None of these causes mean your body is failing. In fact, they show just how hard your body is working to protect you. And the empowering part is this. Most of these issues are manageable, and many can improve significantly once you understand what's behind that morning cough or throat clearing. When you know the cause, you can finally take steps that actually help rather than guessing or just pushing through. Your body has been talking to you now, you know how to listen. And remember, you're not stuck with these symptoms. Your body can still respond beautifully, even after 60, 70, or 80. The smallest daily shifts often bring the biggest changes. A little more hydration, a more mindful dinner routine, cleaner bedroom air, or raising your pillows at night, these simple habits can give your lungs and airways the space they need to settle and heal. You deserve to breathe clearly and comfortably, without waking up every morning fighting through mucus before you can start your day. Your health isn't about perfection, it's about steady improvement. One gentle choice at a time. Before you head out, I'd love to hear from you. What's your age? And which of these causes felt familiar to your own experience? Your stories help guide what I create next, and they often help other seniors feel less alone in what they're going through. Thank you for being here, for taking care of yourself, and for sharing this space with such kindness. If you found today's video helpful, consider liking, sharing it with a friend or sister who might need it, or subscribing so you never miss a new lesson in senior health and longevity. I'm grateful you chose to be here today. Take what feels right, leave what doesn't, and keep moving forward with kindness and curiosity.